You are not lazy. Pause for a moment and really hear that. You are not lazy. For years, you may have repeated that word to yourself. Lazy, unmotivated, inconsistent, weak. But what if laziness is not a flaw in your character? What if it is a misunderstanding of your internal signals? Modern culture tells you that productivity equals worth, that discipline means constant intensity, that high performers wake up energized every single day. But this is not how the human mind works. There's an ancient strategic concept, over 400 years old, that approaches resistance in a completely different way, not as an enemy, but as information. This idea comes from Japanese strategic philosophy, Kyojutsu. Kyo, emptiness. Jutsu, technique. The technique of emptiness. Not emptiness as weakness, emptiness as awareness, as space, as control. And once you understand this deeply, procrastination, lack of focus, and inconsistency begin to look very different. Let's begin with something uncomfortable. If you can scroll on your phone for 2 hours, if you can binge watch an entire series, if you can spend energy worrying, overthinking, or imagining scenarios, then you are not low on energy. You are selective with energy. That means laziness is not about energy. It is about interpretation. Your brain is constantly calculating cost versus reward. If a task feels unclear, risky, or disconnected from identity, your brain protects you by creating resistance. You interpret that resistance as laziness, but biologically, it is protection. Protection from uncertainty, protection from ego threat, protection from possible failure. The mind is not designed for ambition. It is designed for safety. That distinction changes everything. In ancient strategic thinking, attacking directly is rarely the most effective move. Brute force exhausts. Strategy conserves. Kyojutsu teaches the art of understanding position before action. Modern self-help tells you to push harder. Strategic philosophy tells you to reposition first. So let us examine the true roots of what you call laziness. There are 3, not 20, not 50, 3. Confusion, fear, misalignment. Everything falls into one of these categories. And when you understand which one is present, resistance loses its mystery. Confusion is the first. The brain hates ambiguity. When you look at a task and feel overwhelmed, it is not because you are incapable. It is because the first step is undefined. Your nervous system interprets undefined territory as threat, so it stalls. Stalling feels like laziness, but it is cognitive overload. Think of a warrior walking into fog. Not knowing what is ahead creates hesitation. But if the path is clear, movement becomes natural. Clarity reduces psychological friction, so the strategic solution to confusion is micro-clarity. Not motivation, clarity. Reduce the task until it feels almost insignificant. Not write the book, open the document. Not build the business, research one competitor. Not transform your body, put on your shoes. Action creates clarity. Clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates identity reinforcement. This is how productivity compounds. The second root is fear. Fear is subtle. It hides behind logic. It disguises itself as rational delay. I'll start tomorrow. I need more research. I'm not ready yet. But beneath these statements often lives fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not meeting your own expectations. The ego resists situations where its image might be threatened, so procrastination becomes protection. And protection feels comfortable in the short term, but destructive in the long term. Strategically, fear must not be attacked emotionally. It must be reduced structurally. Lower the stakes. Detach performance from identity. Instead of "this must succeed," think "this is practice." Repetition removes emotional intensity. Exposure builds stability. Courage is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. And every time you act despite mild fear, you recalibrate your nervous system. You teach it that effort does not equal danger, that growth does not equal destruction.
The third root is misalignment. This one is the deepest. You can force yourself to do almost anything for a short period, but long-term discipline collapses when identity and action conflict. If you say you want financial success, but your identity is "I'm not the type of person who handles money well," resistance grows. If you say you want fitness, but your internal narrative says "I've never been athletic," effort feels unnatural. Identity is the silent architect of behavior. Not motivation, not mood, identity. You act in alignment with who you believe you are. So the strategic shift is not "how do I force action?" It is "who am I becoming?" When behavior aligns with identity, discipline becomes less emotional, less dramatic, more stable. A person who sees themselves as disciplined does not wake up motivated every day. They wake up consistent because it matches who they believe they are. Now we move deeper. Environment. Your environment is stronger than your intentions. If distraction is easier than focus, distraction will win. Not because you lack mental strength, but because humans follow the path of least resistance. High performers do not rely on willpower alone. They engineer their environment. Phone in another room, clear desk, pre-decided schedule, prepared workspace, reduced decisions. Decision fatigue kills discipline. Every unnecessary choice drains cognitive energy. Strategic simplicity preserves mental strength. If you want productivity, remove friction. If you want focus, remove temptation. Not emotionally, physically. Behavior follows structure. Let's discuss dopamine. Modern systems are designed to capture attention. Short-form content, instant notifications, fast reward cycles. Your brain becomes trained to expect stimulation every few seconds. Deep work feels slow by comparison. So you interpret slowness as boredom and boredom as resistance. But boredom is the gateway to mastery. The ability to remain with a task without constant stimulation is a superpower in this era. Focus is trained tolerance for monotony, and monotony builds depth. Depth builds competence. Competence builds confidence. Confidence builds identity. This is the long arc of self-mastery.
Now, let's integrate everything into practical structure. The Kyojutsu method applied to modern productivity. First, observe without judgment. When resistance appears, pause. Do not insult yourself. Do not label yourself lazy. Simply observe. Second, diagnose the root. Is this confusion, fear, misalignment? Third, reposition. If confusion, clarify. If fear, reduce stakes. If misalignment, reconnect with identity. Fourth, reduce friction. Prepare the environment. Shrink the task. Simplify the entry point. Fifth, act immediately in small form. Not tomorrow, now. Because momentum destroys overthinking.
Over time, repetition reshapes identity. Neural pathways strengthen. The brain associates effort with growth instead of threat. Discipline becomes less emotional, more automatic. Consistency compounds invisibly at first, then dramatically. One focused day changes little. One focused year changes everything. And the difference between average and extraordinary is rarely talent. It is structured repetition. You were never lazy. You were reacting to internal signals without interpreting them strategically. You were fighting emotion instead of adjusting structure. You were blaming yourself instead of redesigning systems. But now you understand. Resistance is information. Information allows repositioning. Repositioning allows action. Action builds identity. Identity builds discipline. And discipline builds freedom.